Welcome to Kansas. It's mid-October. It's finally decided to pretend like fall. We've had a really hot summer, really dry summer. You know, a lot of places throughout the Great Plains have all been in a terrible drought since last summer, to be honest, about last July, and it just hasn't quit. Right now, you know, it's just bone dry. Nothing's growing. My name is Brendan Compton. We live in South Central Kansas. My wife Becky and I, we bought this place a couple years ago. We both grew up in Kansas. I grew up on a farm. We had cattle, and I was in 4-H, you know, my entire life. Showed every kind of animal you could show. Becky also grew up kind of on a farm in northern Kansas, and we both kind of had an enjoyment for livestock and the outdoors and growing a garden and, you know, all those kinds of things. What we discovered pretty quickly on this acreage around our house is that on a drought year it's just really difficult to have cattle. We can have a few, but the stocking rate has to be really low to keep the pastures in good condition, and hay down here is just really expensive. And that's what got me on a path of looking for alternative livestock options, essentially a way to better use the land. One of the things I ran across was elk. I grew up hunting and fishing, and, you know, I really enjoy the outdoors and wildlife, and I looked into raising elk. There's a market for it. I spoke with a couple of fellows in Kansas that have elk, and if you're not familiar with a disease called chronic wasting disease, or CWD, if you stick with us for a while, you're going to learn about it. Elk are a susceptible species. The disease affects cervids, which are deer, you know, deer, moose, elk. Elk are susceptible, and depending on the state that you're in our state, if you have an animal test positive, there's a chance they will depopulate your herd, or essentially kill your animals, to further test them. This happened to one of the gentlemen that I spoke with who raised elk. That was enough to scare me out of going into that venture, at least for the time being. We looked at other domestic animals, goats and sheep and all that, and I just wanted something else, something I was really going to enjoy, that the kids, we've got 2 kids, that they can enjoy. And I spent a lot of time researching options for what we could get into. So we both again enjoy wildlife, enjoy the outdoors, being around animals, raising animals, and we were just looking for a way to keep that going around our homestead. And we do more around the house. You know, we always had a big garden, and we've got honeybees and hives, and we harvest the honey and sell some every year. In my researching the elk idea, I ran across a species that doesn't get CWD. There's only a couple deer species that don't, and I kind of started looking into these animals. There happened to be a local operation, relatively local, that had a herd, and about a year after we went and visited that herd, we got the pen built, got the required regulatory paperwork completed, and rather than sticking our toe in the water, we kind of dove in head first, as they say. And yes, we have cattle. We still keep the cattle on the place. We just can't hold as many. We can't carry as many as, you know, we originally thought, at least not in a drought year. But this year we've got something different. It's not sheep, it's not goats, it's not pigs or chickens, and I'm not talking about the two kids. I've been given hints along the way, but if you haven't figured it out yet, I'll be the first one to welcome you to BRC fallow deer.
Yes, you heard Brendan right. Fallow deer. They're our newest livestock addition to the homestead. I am feeding the deer today, so come along and I'll tell you all about how our journey started. When Brendan suggested we raise fallow deer, I looked at him and said, "What the heck is that? I've never heard of that before." I'm familiar with mule deer and whitetail. They're native around here, but I'd never heard of a fallow before. Well, that's because they're not from here. They are originally from the Mediterranean region in Europe. My next response is we're going to need a lot taller fences then. So, we've been building fence, building pens, building a deer barn, making our homestead everything we would need for a fallow deer farm. Been working really hard this past year to get all of it done. The idea of raising fallow deer really captivated me from the beginning. This was a venture I definitely wanted to accomplish alongside my husband. As a stay-at-home mom, I wasn't really sure what my role would look like, since I am the primary caregiver of our two small children. I really wanted to find a way for me to be an integral part of this new adventure. When I was sharing with my brother Dan that we were going to start raising fallow deer, he suggested I blog about our journey. So I did. I created the Deer Wife blog, website, and social media accounts that go along with it, and I started writing. Anything and everything I thought was interesting in our first year. The Deer Wife blog went over so well, and we had a lot of feedback that they enjoyed our videos and reels, clips, and kept asking for more of that. So this second year of deer farming, we are working to bring you all alongside of us. We are making these episodes of all the highlights and potentially bloopers of what it's like to have a fallow deer farm. It really helps you come along and feel like you're working right alongside of us. If you follow along, we'll be sharing all sorts of educational tidbits and fun facts and anything you'll want to know about fallow deer in these episodes. We initially started with just the perimeter fence that spans a little over 5 acres. Brendan completed this about a week before the deer were delivered. In fact, they arrived right before a fairly large rainstorm. The delivery was quick, and we didn't want to chance the stock trailer getting stuck in the mud. Little did we know that that would be some of the last rain we would see over the next year and a half. We are currently in extreme drought conditions. We could really use some prayers for rain. The amount of preparation and work Brendan did to design and build this fence was staggering, most of which was done single-handedly. He sourced most of his materials locally and even made his own fencing stretcher bar since he couldn't locate one in stock online. Thanks COVID and its supply issues. It was such a wonderful sight to see our original 14 deer sprint out of the trailer when they were delivered. Brendan looked at me concerned and said, "What did we just do?" I really hate working wild cattle. I sure hope these deer aren't crazy wild. So far they haven't seemed too crazy wild. Brendan was constantly working on something around the deer farm during our first year. We really jumped in with both feet and built our facility along the way. The corner catch pen was finished the night before it was needed the first time. Brendan also built our deer barn from the ground up with minimal help after there was a dispute with the building company. In his limited spare time, he also sourced our papa deer chute and a majority of the supplies needed for the holding pins secondhand, which helped save us a little bit in costs. He has also crafted feed bunks and standing bale feeders. He's been a busy guy. While this first year has been filled with hard work, busy days, and a lot of family time outside, I'm proud of how far we've come. We've built a fallow deer farm. Keep watching BRC Fallow Deer. We have a lot of exciting things to share with you this coming year. Stay tuned.